Hey guys, how's it going? This video has been a long time coming, and to be honest, I'm almost a little bit scared to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and replace the front panel on my GCW Zero with this one that was sent to me, and yeah, I'm really scared of actually doing this, which is why I haven't done it already. But I thought, hey, no one's done it yet, so let's get on with it. So I'm working at a bit of a funny angle. I hope that you guys can see properly, and hopefully we can sort of get this show on the road. So the first thing you want to do is take out these plugs. They're like little white plugs in the back of the console. I've got a little screwdriver that should be able to just push them out like that if you pinch them in there, like so. Now the next stage is actually going to be checking the SD card slot, because you don't want the SD card still in there, or the micro SD. So we'll remove that. Hopefully you can see this on cam. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. So we'll take that out and wet that on there as well. Right, get on there. So basically now we've got to unscrew the screws inside, and you can use one of these little really small ones. I've got a little red one somewhere as well, which I think also fits. Yeah, so depending on your hand size, you might find using a really small one much easier, but to be honest, we'll stick with my handy red one. Now when I took this apart before, this is as far as I got. And you've got to be so careful, because essentially what you want to do is try and prise the back off. Everything, opposite to an iPhone really, everything is loaded through the back end. So if we tip this over, hopefully we can shake some of the screws out. There's two. Let's see if we can get these last two out, and then we can put them somewhere safe as well. Hopefully you guys are still seeing this. Yeah. Ah, you bugger. These don't want to come out, do they? So yeah, sometimes this happens with devices. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and pry this back off, and very carefully. If you get your fingernail just around the edge and just run it around the edge, you should be okay, like so. Now you're going to want to lift it off, but also check underneath, because in this part in particular there's quite a few cables underneath that need to be checked, and inside there you've got a rumble motor. I think as well, if we can see in there, we've got a battery. There you go. You can see there's a ton of cables in here. The battery is probably the worst one, if I'm honest, because it's quite tight. And then you've got also the analog cables, which are really small and flimsy. So let's just bring this over and see how we can possibly adjust everything. Let's see if we can remove that rumble motor in there, which may need to be at a slightly different angle. It's not as easy as you think, and this is why I didn't want to do this in particularly. Just because any amount of movement can snap these wires. Now, it's just getting the best angle, if I'm honest. Right, the rumble motor is there. So if I can get a screwdriver inside and just push it out, I may have a shot at this. So inside there, I don't know if you guys can see, there's a little metal thing inside here. That is your rumble motor. If we push that out, we should have a little bit more access. Now the battery is stuck to the back, which is a bit of an issue because it's stuck with some really fancy sticky tape. Yeah. So what we're going to want to do is attempt to keep this battery in place. But I'm not sure how we're going to manage this, if I'm honest. If I can get that battery off, then I can lay it on top of the system. Possibly. But it's pretty damn stuck on there, and I don't want to like forcibly break this battery in any way. It's a big, yeah, it's not easy to do because you don't want to bend anything. Right, let's see if we can we even lay this flat? I don't think we can even lay this flat without the battery being disconnected. Fuck my life. I don't think I have anything that could possibly wedge that battery up. Let me just have a quick look, guys. I don't have a flathead or something. Somewhere. But I don't want to pierce it. So I want something big and blunt, preferably. Just have a quick ganders in this room. I've got some cardboard which may or may not be strong enough to lift this off. But obviously, essentially what we don't want to do is pierce the battery, because that would just be an absolute nightmare. We don't want to put too much pressure on those cables either. Now, lots of people just say to wedge something in there and lift, but the problem with that is you don't know. You don't quite know how far you can wedge something underneath. So if we can get this cardboard slid potentially underneath in such a way that we slide it along and hopefully break that seal, or break the cardboard in this instance, we may just be able to get enough leverage to lift it off the board without piercing the cell. We may not. We may just have to go in blind and try and do it without. I believe it's possible to do it without removing the battery, but there's literally 2 solder joints on the board, and that's it, which sort of sucks. If I can get underneath, then it's possible that you see the middle doesn't look like it's actually stuck. It looks like it's just the ends. So there's a little bit of play, I guess, if you can see this. I doubt you can. That's my head. Damn it. This is the problem with having cables everywhere. Right. So yeah, if we can just semi-alleviate this sort of pressure with the cardboard, there may be a chance of doubly thickening it and then wedging it under even more in the hope of bringing this up. I mean, this isn't usually the way that I would do it. I'd actually get a screwdriver or something. But the thing is, with these types of batteries, they will blow as soon as you pierce them. They do have a little bit of flex, so you can bend them, but beyond that, there's not much else you can actually do to them. Right. Yeah, this is, oh crap, one of the buttons has fell out already. So we may just have to do this without. So what we're going to have to do is remove the L and R buttons first. I think if we push down and remove like so, they come off pretty quick. I don't know if you guys even saw that on camera. No, because everything's a little bit hidden. Basically you push down on the buttons and then you lift them up. And then what we need to do is we need to slide these out, but very carefully, because they're on this like really quite easily breakable cable. Like so, if we just pull them, but don't pull them too fast, just pull them very slowly, and you'll see that they pop out like that. But if they break, of course, then you've got to solder, and I'm not very good at that. It looks like there's a number of stuff on this board, sort of like screw wise. The second hardest part is the beyond the switches, is this down here is a power switch, and I believe to get that out we just push from the outside, and then we try and get this off. But this is painful right now. It's seriously painful. There is a bit of flex in the plastic, so, but it's like, how the fuck? There's a bit of flex, but there's not masses. Right, if we lift this side, I see how it comes off. So basically it pries apart. If we can like push this in. Yeah, this is just horrible right now, because you don't know what you're gonna break when you're doing this. There's a speaker here, which I think possibly needs to be moved. Yeah, but again, these are on very, very tight cables. It's crazy how cheap actually this thing's been made. So essentially, what are we trying to get over now? Right, shit, I've not bent that, have I? I possibly may have. I guess we'll find out. If we can just, because it's got a bit of flex, we may just be able to like pry it over, but then I'm thinking possibly not. Is it possible? Oh shit. This is like the worst thing to do ever. Potentially, could we even take the board off? Let's take the screws out and see if we can move the board with that metal section. I think my dog's up here. So if we can remove the board with the middle section, then we may be able to just keep it all in the back. Nothing's broken yet though, so the goal is to make sure nothing breaks. Right. So as you guys can possibly not see right now, that we have the speakers out. We practically have everything out. We even have some of the screws out. But we're not really moving anywhere. It's pretty bollocks. If I'm honest, it does suck a little that everything is so fragile. Right, what have we actually done here? We've got the reset out the way. We've got the DC out the way right now. If we pull along this ledge and just pull out at the same time, hopefully we can slowly move. Just inside there's like a peg on each corner, and hopefully we can just slowly lift without breaking it, in the hope of... Right, there's a bit here that's snagging, so we're going to have to move around and then just give a little bit of... Obviously we've got the battery to contend with, and then this bit here, this is the crucial bit, because the battery, the actual power switch is there. If we lift her out here, we should be able to just pop her off with the power button still intact. So the next stage, I guess, is to remove all of the screws from the board and then lift the board up. Now I've removed some of the screws from one side, but the side that's going to be the hardest to get to is definitely the battery side. There's a screw here which I've just lifted up. There's a screw there. Just trying to see if there's any other screws on this board underneath the speakers and stuff. Okay, there's one in the middle here. underneath the electrical tape. So we're gonna have to try and maneuver that tape off the board. Now most people will probably recommend wearing some sort of anti-static jizz to do this, but fuck it. You only live once, as they say. So we should just be able to remove that through the anti-static there. There's another bit of bezel at the top half here, which I'm hoping if we can do what we did similarly to the bottom half and just pry it and pull it, hopefully we can actually evade those connections like so and yank that right off. So that's that done. Now we've still got to be careful for a couple of reasons, mainly just the actual battery still, and this is going to be hard to see, I know. I'm just trying to see if I can lift the board out as a oneer, but I'm not sure where we are screwed in, which proves a little difficult. If I'm honest, we've got nothing in the way of screws this end of the board, and we've got a screw here, which I'm pretty sure I've undone completely now. I've got a screw down here behind the shoulder button. I don't think we've got any screws down where the power section is, and down where any of that is, so we should, in theory, be able to lift the board up, which we can to an extent. And we've got to be careful with where we're pushing this, because underneath is the screen somewhere. So we can now lift the board up that side, which is great, but she's snagging somewhere. So we're gonna have to find out where she's snagging this end. And it could be that these aren't actually undone enough, whether they seem to be. And it could be that there's something else somewhere. Ah, there we are. There's a screw here. So if we can get to that screw without pulling off any of the wires. Jesus. That's hard. We're gonna have to use the little one. Hopefully you can still see this and not my hair. Alright. So that's that done. So now let's try and lift her. She's lifting. The screws are actually seating back into their positions though. Right, so she's lifted this end. She's not lifting this end still though, and I'm not entirely sure why. I cannot see another screw. Yes, I can. There is actually one right in here as well. So we're gonna have to get in there left-handed and get between the wires and just undo that screw. And hopefully that's the last one. So if we lift her up now, we should be able to lift her up considerably without breaking anything. I say this, and the board is going to separate, or at least try to. we've actually got the screen attached, but it is coming away. So if we can, and voila, we have managed to do it. Jesus Christ. Okay, that was difficult. Now in the top here we've obviously got all the face buttons which we need to move, and we've still got the power switch, and we can check now whether we've got any power, and we have. So we have successfully taken that off without having to remove anything at all. So if we hold down the power and switch it off, we should be able to take the face buttons out of this one and put them into this one. The hardest part is now going to be putting it back together, I guess. So let's whack these buttons in so we get the two-tone colour. We've got to make sure they're the right way. What have we got? We've got A, B, and then what's this one? B. They do have pegs on, so when they come out, they have a certain amount of pegs. It's hard to see, but they'll only fit in one way. So if I can move this where you can see. So if we push this one out, and then they'll only fit in basically one way. So you shouldn't get any issues with them being upside down. So if we can push that in. Okay, I lie, the Y button only has 2 pegs. So is it possible for it to be upside down? Right. And I didn't take the analog knob off as well. You might want to take that off. Right, so where did I put that? So we're going to put these back on. Like so. Now when the rubber goes on, there are pegs that it sits on, which now sits quite nicely. So we'll get all the buttons in and then we'll show you. So basically then there's some face buttons in right now, you can see. So what I've got left is the start and select button. When they were in, they were connected by this little black, can you see that? Like a little black hinge. They were connected, like so, but alas, you have to break that to get them out, sadly. So what I'm going to do is probably just take these off, down to the base, and snap these off, and then put them back in. Okay, so once it comes off, it's gonna have some of the residue left around it, which should be enough to stick it back down. Obviously, we're gonna have to clean the inside with a cloth, and then stick it back on. We can do that later though, once we've got everything in place. So that's probably what I'm gonna do, is that bit last, because it just sticks on, basically like so. And yeah, so now it's a case of putting it all back together, which is going to be the hardest part, because you've got to remember how it went together in the first place. The power switch is going to need to be put in situ, I'd say, before we put the board in this time, and also the grills from the old front. I'm not sure if they're even still in there, so they've probably fell out on the floor somewhere. Or they're still in the back of the console. I don't think they're there either. So potentially they're on the floor somewhere. But we don't need the speaker grills. It's just a nice added little touch. Where would they be? Oh no, they're still actually stuck in the surrounding bezel. So thumbs up for that. So yeah, now it's just a case of putting everything back in from the back, and yeah, it's not gonna be easy because I can't remember how it came out. But hey, this is how we're gonna have to do it, because otherwise we're never gonna be able to play our GCW Zero again. So what came out first last time? The bezel came out, then the console. So the bezel goes back in, and then the console. Right, okay, we need the power slider switch. We've got L and R buttons here. Also, if you're doing this, you probably want to do this on a table because you end up losing stuff pretty easily. Right, power slider switch. Where does that go? Goes on here in the right hand side, I'm sure. And you got to constantly watch out for stuff that's going to fall out on you. Considering the power slider, yeah, it does go this side, but into the bezel. So we're going to have to put the bezel on first, without a doubt. Bezel goes on first, guys. So, we've got how long left of recording? 2 hours. That should be plenty. So we're going to have to whack this bezel back on, and it just pushes in if we remember rightly. It has like little slots, if you can see that. Just there, it's like little grooves, notches that this bezel sits in. And it literally just sits into place. We may have to take some of this off. I'm not sure how well this is going to go. The power switch can just sit in. It's which way we want it to switch in. I'm guessing we want it to sort of stay in this way. But potentially, yeah, I'm not sure how that is even like, because now it looks like it's too big. And we took it out from behind before, I'm sure. Perhaps we need to put it in between the bezel. Jesus, this is difficult enough as it is. But perhaps we need to line it up in underneath the bezel, maybe. Maybe that's what we have to do. Just remember that sliding it up is power. Obviously this should just clip in, but it's not playing nice right now. I'm not entirely sure why. I might have to just take the bezel off for a second, just to see if we can get this pushed in. Wow, what the hell? It does essentially clip into place, but it's not the easiest of things to manage. It looks like it should clip into place. Let's just check the last one and see kind of how. Right, I see the last one. Yeah, it does. It literally just clips in there. So essentially it clips in, but this hole on this one is sort of bigger than this hole on this one. So let's just take those rattly buttons out. Then the hole on this one, it is actually wider. Quite a bit. So we're just gonna have to figure that one out as we get to it. The clips aren't exactly great either, to be fair. I can see why some people just shaved them off and then sat it in place. But yeah. And the other issue is now is, of course, it sits in there pretty tightly. So we're gonna have to like wear it out. I don't know if you guys can see that, but It's actually pretty darn stiff now, so that may or may not be an issue when it comes to switching it on later. But we should be able to put the bezel back on, so we'll do that. I'll whack the bezel back on the back. So if we can whack this bezel back on, yeah, this is really not that easy to do at all. It's, instead of it being simple and stress-free, it's actually pretty stressful for a couple of reasons. The bezel is not the easiest of things to fit, and everything just seems to get in the way, which is extremely annoying. Right, so now if we push that in, that should snap over the switch. Yep. And we should just be able to fit everything into place. Nice. Start and select buttons can head back in. They need to go the correct way though. So select is the top, start is the base. If we can push them in, yeah, they're in. I don't ever want to do this again. Right, so the top bezel piece is in situ, and it goes in. Hang on a second, let me just double check this. Yeah, it goes in basically like that, upside down. Again, nodules are there to guide it into place, but it can't. No, it goes right. How the hell? So you're telling me that? Yeah, that's right. It goes in like that. So when that faces, no, it must go in upside down. But it doesn't fit upside down. What the hell? So when that goes in like this, this is going to be like this. So maybe it is the right way up. Maybe it's just me. Yeah, it has to go that way. So the L&R buttons can go on last. I think the bezel's practically in place, the buttons are in place. The screws are not in place, but we can sort that out after. So now it's just going to be a case of dropping this back in very carefully into its correct position, then slotting everything back in place. So if we can drop it in like so, but not too harsh, because obviously we've got a bunch of cables, we've got the battery in here, so we just want to slowly slide everything in, and hopefully the rest of the screws will just plop out. If we can get like a little screwdriver in here just to push that screen down on the corners, because it doesn't have metallic corners, so we should be able to just push it down and seat it into place. Oh, that didn't sound good. Okay, it's not sounding good. Perhaps we need to put it this way in. It has little notches on the screen as well, so you kind of got to line those up. Unfortunately, I'm failing at that. Perhaps it's because the bezel is in the way. Let me take the top bezel off See if I can fit it in. There we go. So it might be best to take the top bezel off before you try. And fit it in, and then just do what you did with the power switch earlier, which is slot it over the top and then into place. Hopefully everything is good in there except for this corner, which is obviously the power switch corner. Shit. So this is gonna have to be like essentially pushed in that corner. If we can lift this up, get this power switch corner in first, we may have a chance. So essentially what you... Oh shit, no, what's out? What's coming out now? Fuck, you've got to be kidding me. Basically the start and select switch, the select switches fell out. Shit. Let's put that back down into there. Get back in your hole. Please. Come on. Get back in there. Damn it. Stop touching that. Ah, you fuck. I'm going to take the whole board out again. At this rate. Oh dear. The start and select have fell out. So if I can get underneath. Good. And wipe them back in. Right. Now what we need to do is wipe that corner in first, if we can. Get that set into place with the power switch. Ah, shit. Oh, shit. It's not easy to see. So... Oh, Jesus Christ. This is difficult. Right, 2 seconds. So once that's done, you're going to want to find all your little screws that have popped out, which could be absolutely anywhere on this floor. But if you can find them, you're going to want to slowly stick them back into where they came out from, just to hold the board in place whilst you do everything else. Now one side of the board does want to kick up right now, and I'm not entirely sure why this is, but I think it might be due to the fact that we just haven't screwed it into place. We just have to remember where the screws came from again, which isn't easy. And you've got to be so careful with all the tiny cables in here. It does make it difficult to work with. And now I can't even find my little screwdriver. So I'm going to have to use my other one. But this one's got a bit of a magnet to it anyway. So there, yeah. So now that you've got at least 2 sides screwed in, you should be able to get everything else in place. This is what's proving difficult for me, is the L and R buttons. They don't want to sit right. And I'm not sure if that's because they've been twisted round or what. All I know is the cables are extremely fragile. And they're easy to snap. I don't think they do fit in there, and if they do, I'm not sure how. How did they fit in the last ones? Oh man, this is awkward. Did they fit across, or did they fit? They must have slid into play somehow. Can't be across though because it's too short. Man, this is not easy. It's horrible, like, I'm guessing something like this, but then I'm not positive. Obviously the difficult part is the fact that the rubber sticks through, and I'm not sure if this is even the right way. So when that sticks on there, I'm presuming it will need to be, God knows, it's got to be that way, because this side doesn't have much in the way of Mobo to attach it in there, so I'm guessing it's got to go that way. Right, so we've got the speaker on the bottom side of the screen here, which I'm hoping is entangled in with the power cables, so that can just be pushed back into place. We've still got the bezel, I think, for the top half of the dude. We've still got some random screws laying about, so if we can find the screws laying about, there's one there. Then we can potentially put the screws back in, or at least have some of the screws back in place, and not all of them, just to hold it in position. I think that's it. So this top bezel's got to go on, which it's lucky this stuff's quite flexible. Otherwise everything in this machine would have snapped, essentially. Oh shit, what's that? Come on. That's it, right. So that's in place, that's in place, that's in place, that's in place. The LNR just pushed down in, I think. Right, if I remember rightly. Like so. They do feel a bit weak in there right now. But maybe that's corrected once it's closed. So these have to be pushed in place. There's a little nodule inside of these, which potentially can go inside the hole on the. Yeah, that's it. That's better. The other one's already in, I think. Right. So now it's just a case of a couple more little ditty screws into the motherboard to hold it in position, and hopefully we can then screw it back up, and then push her back in place and get that rumble motor back in as well. So if we push this in, right, that's a screw there in place. I've got another screw here which I think goes in here. This is a problem with all electronics, and now the screw's gone. Because you don't want the screw rattling around in there. Otherwise, you can cause all sorts of problems. Oh, you fuck. Damn it, this is difficult. Maybe use a magnetic screwdriver, maybe. Maybe that would make it a bit easier. Yeah. Just to get it into position so we can screw it in. The standoffs aren't exactly great on this, so when you screw it in, it might just keep spinning. Just leave it at that. Ah, damn it, shaky hand. We just need to get as many screws in as we can, with the hope that it will just hold the board in place enough. So we've got to find those little screw holes and screw it into position. And luckily, if we you can see here as well that there's actually a micro SD. Now if we wanted to change that, we could actually change it, but in doing that I flicked the bloody L switch out again. What an idiot. I'm trying to put it in the wrong way around now. Oh, it's such cheap. It's horrible when you buy stuff at a premium and it's made super cheaply. It really is. Like, this should have been made in such a way that you could quite possibly take it apart and change bits. It's an open source device. So basically this side that the battery cables are in, there was a few. And I want to get those in. Just because this side's going to take one side's going to take most of the button mashing. The other not so much. So there's 2 screws in this side now. And I might just leave it at that. And there's another hole there. We got another little screw. Yeah. There's that other hole that I really want to make sure is covered. In here. In between the power cable wires. If we move them across a little bit, hopefully I can get this in there. I know it's hard to see on camera, guys, but hopefully it's giving you a little rough idea of the hell you have to go through just to sort this little thing out. Right, okay. So that's that in there. Now we've still got the rumble motor inside the back. Oh no, 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 no. Damn it, Daniel. And we've still got the L and R buttons to contend with as well, because they'll just constantly want to pop out. And hopefully you can actually see this, because they just slot into a little slot there, and then the button basically just slots on top with a little nodule inside, which is to fit the little nodule on the button itself. Now we've still got the rumble motor in here, and this is going to be a bitch to attach, but if we push it over to the side, hopefully we can get it to a point where we can maneuver it with a screwdriver. At least something small. I mean, we could just detach it, because nothing actually uses it, but it is a cool little thing, and so I want to sort of keep it together, if you will. Right, so basically the rumble motor, it tucks inside the back of the device where the power cables are set now, essentially. We could put it together like this though, and just have the motor free roaming, but then we've got the issue of shorts, so we're going to have to lift the motor and try and get it back into its original position, which would be much easier if we didn't have the bloody power cables in the way. And the things we can't really do much about these. Right. So let's grab you and try and position you. A single shape. So you just slot in here. Come on. Slot in there. I've got it slotted in, but not where I want it to be. Where I've slotted it now is it's not very good. So I want to move it up. And then you may just be able to get your hands on this if you've got hands small enough to do this. You may just get it like I have just now, but I'm not sure. Oh man, almost had it then. Almost had it. It's a weird seating arrangement, if I'm honest. If we can just get it roughly in there though, hopefully it will stay in there. And then all we've got to do is get this back panel on. Which is going to be difficult, because it doesn't want to sit in place. Oh, you fucker. I'm not sure why it doesn't want to sit. Yeah, because it's clipped. Right. Let's get this back in there. Come on. Come on, you bugger. Okay. So, what we need is this. In there, like this. And then Jesus. It's these LNRs that are proving to be a real pain in the arse right now. Because they've got to sit in a specific way in the back panel. And so you might need to jig them a little bit about a little bit before they sit correctly. Like so. Right. Now. Ah, you fucker. You absolute bastard. God damn it. It's actually harder getting the back on than I thought. Okay, give me a second guys. So once it's done, it did take a bit of persuading to get it back in, and I think there's something not quite right sitting somewhere. Because now it feels like doesn't feel like it's sat right. So I might have to check that and see what's up, but it switches on, which is the main thing. So guys, she's back together, and yeah, she wasn't working, but now she is. There's a couple of things that I really want to point out when doing this is A, make sure you have everything in a safe place, because I've actually lost a screw or two. Secondly, be very careful with the power switch, because I now no longer have one. Although I have one in there, the switch is still fine, but the actual button, it won't slot in. And it was an issue because it was a tight fit anyway, and it wouldn't be spring loaded with the button that's in there. So that's the second thing. The third thing is obviously I've scratched the bezel and the screen protector here quite a bit, which is a bit disappointing. So I'd like another one of those at some point. And also the black and the white. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be slotted in quires as well. Lastly, I have obviously had to reflash the whole system, which was a bit of a pain in the neck, but now when we do use the power switch here, which I'm gonna have to find something that fits that, because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to switch it on very well without using the reset. So yeah, I had to reflash the whole device, and now we get a boot back into Dingus. So the next thing to do is update this and then put all my games back on here. But it looks superb with the white bezel, so thank you very much to the dude that sent me this. It's been a while now, and I'm sorry I didn't do the video sooner. As you can probably tell from the video itself, it's very difficult to do, and you end up getting pretty pissed off pretty quickly. It's not easy, it's not fun. You can do it without damaging your screen and any components, well, I say any, and you can do it without removing the battery from the back of this as well. So there is that. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and I shall see you very soon with another one. Thanks again for watching. Cheers.